What if everything your school textbook told you about the inside of our planet was wrong? Right now, beneath your feet, there is a ball of metal hotter than the surface of the sun, spinning at a different speed than the rest of the Earth. And scientists just discovered it might have stopped in reverse direction. Nobody can fully explain why. Drop your wildest theory about what's hiding down there in the comments. Smash that like button if you love mysteries that mess with everything you thought you knew, and subscribe so you don't miss what we dig up next. Here's the thing, we've sent robots to Mars. We've photographed black holes billions of light years away. We've mapped the surface of Pluto. But the deepest hole humanity has ever drilled into its own planet barely scratched the surface. Literally. The Kola Superdeep Borehole in Russia went down about 12 kilometers. That sounds impressive until you realize that the distance to the center of the Earth is 6,371 kilometers. That means we've explored roughly 0.2% of the way down. Everything we think we know about the remaining 99.8% comes from indirect measurements, seismic waves, and educated guessing. Today we're going to travel layer by layer into the most inaccessible place in our solar system. Not some distant moon, not the bottom of a Martian canyon, the core of our own planet. And what scientists have been finding in the last few years is genuinely terrifying, because the deeper they look, the less the old models make sense. Let's start with the only time humans actually tried to physically reach the deep Earth. The year is 1970. The Soviet Union is locked in a Cold War with the United States, and both superpowers are obsessed with proving technological dominance. America is going to the moon. The Soviets decide to go in the opposite direction, straight down. On the desolate Kola Peninsula near the Norwegian border, a team of Soviet engineers begins drilling into the bare rock of the Baltic Shield, one of the oldest and hardest geological formations on the planet. The project has no military purpose, no economic goal. It is pure science driven by pure ego. They want to drill deeper than anyone has ever gone. For the first few years, progress is steady. The drill chews through granite at a decent pace. By 1979, they've passed the 9-kilometer mark, breaking the record previously held by an American well in Oklahoma. But then things start getting strange. The deeper they go, the hotter it gets, and not at the rate their models predicted. At 12 kilometers down, the temperature hits 180 degrees Celsius. Their instruments were designed for maybe 100. The drill bits start softening like butter. The rock itself begins to behave less like solid stone and more like plastic, flowing and closing around the borehole. Engineers describe it as trying to drill through warm taffy. The rock doesn't want to stay open, it wants to heal itself. And then came the anomaly that nobody expected. At around 7 kilometers, the drill punched through a layer that was saturated with water. Not just damp, actual pressurized liquid water trapped inside granite that was over 2 billion years old. Textbooks at the time said this was impossible. Water cannot exist at those depths under those pressures. The accepted theory said any water would have been squeezed out of the rock millions of years ago. But there it was, ancient hydrogen and oxygen molecules that had been locked inside the Earth's crust since before multicellular life existed on the surface. Conspiracy theorists immediately seized on the story. Some claimed the Soviets actually found hollow caverns filled with strange gases. Others said the project was shut down because they drilled into something alive, some kind of subterranean ecosystem that shouldn't exist. The most famous urban legend, which still circulates to this day, claims that at the deepest point, the drill broke through into a cavity, and when engineers lowered a heat-resistant microphone, they recorded screams. Actual human-like screams rising from the depths. The so-called well-to-hell recording went viral before viral was even a concept. Of course, that audio was a hoax, likely created using a looped soundtrack from a movie. But here's what's unsettling. The real scientific discoveries from Kola were almost stranger than the legend. The pressurized ancient water, the rock that moved like a living thing, the temperatures that defied every thermal model. The project was finally abandoned in 1992, not because of screams or demons, but because funding collapsed along with the Soviet Union. The borehole was welded shut. To this day, it remains the deepest artificial point on Earth, and nobody has tried to go deeper. But if we can't drill down there, how do we know what the center of the Earth looks like? The answer is earthquakes. Every time the ground shakes anywhere on the planet, it sends seismic waves rippling through the entire body of the Earth. These waves behave differently depending on what material they pass through. Some waves, called P waves, can travel through both solids and liquids. Others, called S waves, can only pass through solid material. When S waves hit something liquid, they simply stop. In 1936, a Danish seismologist named Inge Lehmann was studying earthquake data from New Zealand. She noticed something that didn't fit the existing model. Seismic waves were arriving at monitoring stations where they shouldn't have been able to reach. They were bending in ways that could only be explained if there was a solid ball sitting inside a liquid layer at the very center of the Earth. Everyone had assumed the core was entirely molten. Lehmann proved there was a solid inner core, roughly the size of the moon, floating inside a swirling ocean of liquid iron. She was right, and that discovery held firm for decades. Until 2023, a team of researchers from Peking University published a study that sent shockwaves through the geophysics community. They had analyzed decades of seismic data from earthquakes and nuclear tests, and their conclusion was staggering. The inner core of the Earth appeared to have slowed its rotation, stopped, and then begun spinning in the opposite direction. Let that sink in. A ball of solid iron, 1,200 kilometers across, sitting at the center of our planet, just reversed course. The study suggested this might be a roughly 70-year cycle, meaning the core oscillates back and forth like a pendulum buried under 6,000 kilometers of rock and metal. But nobody can agree on why. Some geophysicists say it's driven by gravitational coupling with the mantle. Others argue it's related to changes in the Earth's magnetic field. A third camp says the data is being misinterpreted entirely. The truth is, we don't have enough information. We're reading shadows on the wall of a cave and trying to describe the fire, and the surprises kept coming. In 2023, another team of researchers announced they had found evidence of a distinct layer inside the inner core itself, a sort of core within the core, an innermost inner core made of iron crystals that are oriented differently from the surrounding metal. Think of it like this. Imagine a jawbreaker candy. You've got the outer layers, then the inner core, and now scientists are saying there's a secret center to the center. This hidden ball, roughly about 650 kilometers across, might be a frozen record of a catastrophic event early in Earth's history, perhaps a massive impact or a sudden shift in the planet's magnetic field billions of years ago. We're essentially finding fossils inside our planet's iron heart. And here's where it gets truly mind-bending. The temperature at the inner core boundary is estimated at around 5,000 to 6,000 degrees Celsius. That's roughly the same temperature as the surface of the sun. The pressure is about 360 gigapascals, which is over 3 million times the atmospheric pressure at sea level. Under those conditions, iron doesn't behave like any iron you've ever seen. It forms exotic crystalline structures that we can barely replicate in a laboratory. Some physicists believe there may be an entirely new state of matter down there, something that doesn't fit neatly into solid, liquid, or gas, a superionic state where certain atoms are locked in a crystal lattice while others flow freely through it like a liquid. If that's true, the inner core isn't really solid or liquid. It's something else entirely, something we don't have a proper name for. So, what does this all mean? It means the ground beneath your feet is a lot more mysterious than the sky above your head. We've spent centuries staring outward, building telescopes, launching probes, mapping galaxies. But the greatest unexplored frontier on this planet is straight down. The core of the Earth generates the magnetic field that shields every living thing from deadly solar radiation. Without it, the atmosphere would be stripped away, the oceans would evaporate, and Earth would look like Mars. And yet, we understand our own planet's engine less than we understand the nuclear fusion at the heart of a distant star. The inner core is slowing down, reversing, hiding secret layers within itself, and possibly existing in a state of matter we haven't even defined. Every new measurement raises more questions than it answers. Maybe that's the most humbling thing about science. The more precisely we listen to the Earth's heartbeat, the more we realize we've been hearing only a fraction of the song. So, the next time you stand on solid ground and feel safe and certain about the world, remember this. 6,000 kilometers below your shoes, a ball of iron the size of the moon is doing something we cannot explain. In temperatures we cannot survive, under pressures we cannot recreate, in a state of matter we cannot name. And it's the only thing keeping you alive. What do you think is really going on down there? Tell me in the comments. And if this video made you look at the floor a little differently, subscribe. We've got a lot more digging to do.